welcome back to the special birthday edition of the World Tellers podcast. Happy birthday, Jonathan.
Hold on, whose birthday is it?
Jonathan.
Oh, Jonathan's birthday.
It's mine and
I
Brett's.
thought it was the first.
It's not mine, dude. I'm not 37.
Huh?
I'm not 37.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're recording on Jonathan's birthday. Yeah.
October 3rd.
Yeah, man. Welcome to being 37.
It's a good day.
10-3-88.
Hey, man.
Jonathan's like,
Just go ahead and rip that. Go ahead and start. Just go ahead and start with the social. and
yeah,
I'll,
can we do the social?
I'll get my wallet out.
And you live at where at? What's the address?
No, I'm asking.
He's like,
I was about to make a mom joke. Like, your mom street? Anyway,
Oh.
that's not cool. I don't know. Should we start this podcast over? Dude, how is that still in there from like, what was it, like 20 years ago? Was it your mom thing?
Yeah, we probably should.
I still pull that out with like Lauren sometimes. It's so weird because that's my mother-in-law. And I think I used to be better at it. Lauren would be like, "Hey, do you know where the whatever is?" I'm like, "Does your mom know where the whatever is?"
Oh, man.
She doesn't laugh. That's good.
We can leave this in or just roll with it.
Yeah, we'll just roll with it, I
Yeah,
guess.
just
garbage time at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right out the gate. Normally it comes at the end of the game, but we threw it in the beginning. Now we can only go up from here. So
sorry, guys.
So Josiah's got some.
For the record, I love your mom, Josiah. She's a saint.
she is Saint
Agreed.
Anne.
So Josiah's got.
So far I have 4.
He's got 4 questions for us. I'll let you set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe this still comes from the whole Charlie Kirk thing, but I was just thinking about, being able to defend our faith, and he was so good at being able to just be asked a question and have like an immediate response that was intellectual and like informative. And it's like there's an aspect where he was obviously gifted in that department. I don't think everybody's called to be able to like just generate the information he had just right off the tip of his tongue. But I do think there's something to be said about, sharpening ourselves for situations, because it happens. We've probably all been in situations where you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, I really wish I knew the right thing to say here, or how to say it, or how to articulate my faith in a better way that would be, if nothing else, planting a seed in that person's life. And so I was just kind of thinking about that, and I was just thinking about just very basic questions. And this question I actually asked to my daughter and Miller Gray, and they started to give answers, and then I think got distracted. But the first question, and I would ask you guys to do, I mean, I know it's a little difficult because only one person can speak at a time, is maybe try to like formulate, like I'm going to ask the question, formulate in your mind kind of like, if I'm having this conversation in real time with somebody, this is kind of how I'm going to lead back with my response. Once again, I know it's a little bit difficult because somebody's going to speak, which will probably then feed into how you're going to respond as well. But, ultimately the idea is sharpening ourselves, hopefully sharpening somebody that's listening to this. And maybe if there's somebody that's a skeptic listening, then maybe they'll hear some things that will.
You're putting a lot of trust in our wisdom and ability to answer these questions on the spot.
But this is from layman people. So there's the idea is like, I don't think we're expected to have like, here's a 5-point argument for X, Y, or Z. It's more of, hey, I'm a roofer, I'm a fireman, I'm a golfer today.
Right.
Is that your birthday gift, by the way? Did Alicia bless you with that, or?
I bless myself.
Man, wow. All right, so you guys ready? You guys kind of get the
Bless myself.
Ready? Let's do it.
All right. First question. Just assume you're talking to somebody that's like not a super close friend, but
Wait. Are you going to ask like each one of us the question over
I'm going to
again?
ask the question.
So we're not building on it.
To the group.
We got to figure that out.
So just
maybe just start with asking the question with one and then ask it to each one, and we'll just try to be original.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever Finn said, yes.
So should I just pick one of you guys? So each one of you guys will get first.
Well,
okay.
just
Just
ask the
ask the
questions,
question.
and then whoever
just ask the question.
wants to go first can answer.
We got to overcomplicate this.
All right. So just picture that you're talking to somebody that you're not a super close with, but you have more than just like it's a stranger on the street. It's somewhere in between there. there's a word for it that's not coming to an acquaintance. Yeah. You're just having a conversation. Something gets brought up. The person says, "Yeah, I don't believe that there is a God." I guess that's not a question, but it's more of a statement that I think as a believer should merit a response. Yeah, I don't believe that there's a God out there. I think this is all there is. I can put it into a question. What do you think?
Well, I think honestly, in a genuine, honest conversation, you're like, really?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I would answer by asking.
Okay.
To start.
So we're having the conversation. So you don't have to tell me what you're going to say. You just.
Oh, we're going to kind of play a role.
I'm Johnny.
Thanks, man.
Johnny the skeptic.
I'm
over
Walter.
Here. Walter the skeptic.
Yeah, Walter's definitely.
How about Steve the skeptic? So we have alliteration.
I'm Simon the skeptic.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just don't believe that there's a God out there.
Why is that?
That would be how you respond?
I would start with, if we're acquaintances, I wouldn't be like, you're wrong, man. You're an idiot. I would not respond that way.
But what you just said is.
So like, why is that? Why do you think there's no God?
No, it's good.
Are you? I thought you were.
You were playing the part.
You're role playing.
I can only role play so far. I don't know, man. I just look at the world around me. It doesn't seem like there's much proof for it. It seems like science has been able to fill in all the gaps that we used to use God to fill. The way the world looks, it's all chaotic and messed up. So yeah, I'm not really seeing. Like, I've never seen God. If he was real, why wouldn't he just show up in my room tomorrow? What?
No, it's not you. I like the concept. It's just this is. I wasn't ready for it, but this is good. Because I'm trying to pretend like you're somebody that I'm just like an acquaintance with, and we're having a natural flowing conversation.
I guess my thought was I was going to ask the question, and then
we could discuss how we'd respond.
Yeah, but if your response, that's why I was saying good, because if your response is you would just ask that question, we could leave it there. But I can continue in the role play.
No. Either way, whatever you're comfortable with. I guess.
I'll
do a quick thing. I'll do a quick response to that. One, I don't. That's not the type of person I normally encounter, where they're just an abject skeptic, or I do have those people in my life that I know of, obviously.
We'll get to those people, friend.
But there's a general sense that they're like, I just don't think God is real. I'm kind of, maybe they're more agnostic. They're not a militant atheist. They're just skeptical about, and I just think, to me personally, that's somebody that either one has had some kind of trauma or difficulty in their life, or looked at the evil and the suffering in the world. I find that that's a huge key to their disbelief in God. They're like, how could an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God exist given the evil and suffering in the world? And then also there's just like I think science explains most everything. And I think in both of those cases, there's a lack of, I don't want to discount those feelings that person's having, but there's a lack of depth in both of those. That if they dig a little deeper and are on an honest path of searching, I just don't think that that's the location that you end up in. That's probably a bad response to the question, but it's like, that's my general thought about folks in that space, not from a judgmental place, but it's like, yeah, keep pressing into that, because you're at least asking deep questions and are wrestling with things. And I do genuinely believe that the worldview that has the greatest explanatory value is Christianity. Just a brief one, like if there's questioning and struggling with the existence of God because they see suffering and evil in the world, it's like, just play devil's advocate. Go to your side, the extreme expression of your side, where there's no God. Everything is genuinely at its core just material in motion. What is evil? What is suffering? It's nothing other than molecules in motion. When consciousness, the illusion of consciousness goes away with the heat death of the universe, whatever's been built up, it's just going to go back to a flat equilibrium across all of space-time of nothingness, just stagnant death of the universe. And whatever you've done and whatever evil was, quote unquote, evil was perpetrated, it's all meaningless. Life is meaningless. You should be a nihilist. None of this matters in any way, shape, or form. It's like they don't live as if that's true. And if they adopt that atheistic worldview that there's no spiritual realm, there is no God, there is no creator, there is no right and wrong, there's no evil, there's no good, they adopt that. That's the reality of the world that they live in. And this whole claim that there's evil and suffering in the world is utterly meaningless. You see what I'm saying? It's like and if you don't want to wrestle with that, then it's like you're just choosing to use this as an excuse to deny God's existence. And it's a hard question, but I think that's I don't know. At least that's kind of where I think now. How do you fit that into a conversation? The person's got to be willing to have that conversation and be willing to have a good faith dialogue.
Jonathan, I don't believe in God. My name's Simon.
Okay, Simon. My question would be, like, are you open to the idea of God, or would you rather not, believe that God doesn't exist?
Yeah, so if I'm being honest, I feel like I would believe in God if there was proof for him. Like if he showed up here, I would believe in him.
Okay. Well,
so, but it's hard to know yourself fully. But yeah, I would say I would be open. I'm open, but just don't see the proof for it.
Yeah. So there is a Bible verse that that in some ways says that basically we have the evidence of God based on the world around us. Like we can see God in everything. And I think that most people who don't believe in God, they do believe in like the Big Bang Theory, the theory of evolution and all of that. What helped me come to the conclusion that there must be a God is this was early on in my walk. And now since then, side note, I have experienced a genuine relationship with God, which is hard for me to tell you about. Like that is a personal thing, and you hearing it from me is going to sound like a conspiracy or whatever else, unless you've experienced yourself. I felt the same way when other people were talking about it.
Let me just pause you. This is not Simon. This is just Josiah. That what you just said right there resonates with me. But continue. I like how you just said that.
Yeah. So putting that aside, when I first started going down, I guess the question I would have is: are you genuinely seeking what is true? Are you like thinking about it like a scientist of like, hey, which of these things is true, and where does the evidence lead? Because if that's the case, if you really take it back and you think about the Big Bang Theory, right? Let's say there was all this matter come together, and then all of a sudden it exploded and literally turned into the universe we have. And now we have this planet that is protected by other planets. We're revolving around the sun at a perfect, like this is perfect system that was, if it was off by any degree whatsoever, we would never have been here as human beings. If all of that started at the very beginning with one ball of matter, and then all of a sudden it exploded and turned into all of this, my question that I could not get around that drew me to the Bible because I wanted to know more was what caused that? And I could not get around that. And so I started looking, and like literally you have the option, like I think before anyone decides, hey, I don't believe in God, I should at least study why people do believe in God, which is going through the Bible and actually understanding what it is that I don't believe in. I've read all of this. I've studied this, trying to find, hey, is this true or not? If you've done that and you still come to that conclusion, that's one thing. But most people, once they genuinely start looking with an open heart and an open mind into the creation story of the Bible, they come to the conclusion that this must be real. And one thing too, I would just throw out there just as a little teaser of when you start your research, when you start in Genesis, literally the first day, there was nothingness and everything was void. The earth was void. And God said, let there be light, which to me sounds a lot like the beginning of the universe. and all of a sudden there was nothing, and then there was light. And that, what to me, that resonated. And then when I started looking at the Bible through what we know now, or what even science says, I don't think one disproves the other. And so that's where I got. And then, like I said, once I started going down that path and started saying to myself, okay, if God is real and if God does have a relationship with man like this says he does, I want to experience that. And I have.
I like it. I like it. Brett, my name's Schleiman. I don't think
That was
there's a
good.
God.
By the way, that was good, John.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Jonathan. I like that.
Good idea.
And there's several different ways to attack the question.
You're gonna attack me, huh, Brett?
Yeah, I've got a sword. I would say there's archaeological evidence that coincides with the truth revealed in the Word of God. You've got fulfilled prophecy in Scripture. But I would probably start with, where do you think everything came from? Because I think science has proven that something doesn't come into existence out of nothing. And so if there's something, there has to be a cause, right? And so whoever is creating these things has to be outside of what's being created. And so I think the best explanation is that there's a cause. There has to be a cause for everything that we see. But I think it depends on where the conversation goes based off of how they answer. Because I mean, I can sit here and, like Jonathan said, I can tell you that I know God. I've seen Him working in my life. I've seen Him working in other people's lives. And another question I would ask is something to kind of steal from Frank Turek is like, if Christianity were true, would you believe it? And I think if your answer is no, then that tells me that you're not really interested in searching for the truth.
No, it's good. And I've realized as we're doing this, it is more difficult to act like you're engaged in a conversation with like Simon. The format we're doing, where it's just like an initial response, I think is sufficient. I think it'd be difficult to hold like a dialogue as if I'm not Josiah right now, but I'm Simon. So, but I think
let me ask a follow up real quick to that. Do you think most people disbelieve in God because of emotional reasons or because of intellectual reasons?
I'd say both. I think.
I definitely think both.
Yeah, I would say most people probably emotionally. But I was watching I watched very briefly. It's called Diary of a CEO, and they had some psychologist or psychiatrist, I can't remember. They had Greg Kokel. I don't know if you know who Greg Kokel is.
And Alex
O'Connor.
I saw that one.
And Alex O'Connor is he doesn't come from like an emotionally. Mm-mm. From an emotional perspective, he's more like evidence. And
I kind of had some of that conversation in my mind when I was answering that question, because that conversation, his main driving push back was against evil and suffering in the world, and why, that was his main objection.
I think what happens, or I think the underlying issue a lot of times for people who don't believe in God or whatever is, or any of like the supernatural, is it comes from a place of like an example, like when you watch old crime shows or whatever, especially like in the 70s or 80s, and there's like a town of good old boys or whatever, and they go ahead and conclude who did it, and then try to find evidence to lead to a conviction. And everyone watches that and they're like, this is so wrong. Like that is like Detective 101. You don't do that. You don't already decide who did it based on your gut feeling and then find any kind of evidence that might point towards that or whatever. The right way to go about anything, especially as a scientist or whatever. And I feel like a lot of people who don't believe in God, they're talking about the science. Well, I believe in the science. And it's like, well, if you're really thinking like a scientist, then I want to follow the evidence wherever this leads. And I think that's really hard for people to do. And I think it's getting harder in our day and age because now you tune into whatever media so that they can tell you what you think. And so I think that's the biggest issue that I struggle with, or I think that, people, I think the biggest problem with spreading the gospel is people already have these foredrawn conclusions, whether they want to believe it or but they haven't actually studied the other option. And to me, like, that's my biggest, I'm like, look, like, if you're going to dig in on a side when it comes to, is there a creator or not? Like, it's worth the time. Like, at least read through the word, at least study what preachers are saying and try to understand that. And then if you do all that and then you decide, no, I just don't, like, I don't believe it, that's a different thing. That's an informed,
I would fully agree. I think most people have heard talking points from other people and they take that and they're like, oh, this is my evidence. And they haven't actually studied it themselves.
Yeah. And the key is, is that you have to have an open heart for like you said. I think that's a great question. Like, if Christianity was true, would you believe it? Because I think that's, any skeptic or anyone with a cold heart can come through like, oh, I read the Bible 3 times, and it's all just, and it's like, okay, well, but you didn't actually, you weren't open to it.
Yeah. This kind of leads into what you're saying, but it's prefaced by saying I was listening to a conversation with John Lennox and an atheist materialist guy, but they asked the materialist guy, like, if like Jesus showed up in front of you, would you believe in him? He's like, no, I think I'm having a hallucination. And so it's just interesting. It's like, no, it like that doesn't fit into my paradigm. It doesn't fit into the box. So I'll find any way to use the tools I have in my box to explain the fact that there's a person standing in front of me right now. So I do think there are people like that, and there's people that are honest enough to actually say that. I think there are other people that are dishonest about it, but they feel that way inside. Like, even if there is I don't want any, like, no. But what was it? The thing that this atheist was saying to John Lennox, and Lennox is from Scotland or Ireland, I think. But he was like, you're just it's because you grew up in Ireland, which is a Christian country. Like, that's the only reason you're just oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. You are a
cultural Christian, or just
pretty much you are that because you came from that culture,
which
kind of because he was kind of playing the devil's advocate point of what you were just saying, because I think what you're saying is pretty spot on. It's like, I've never actually looked into that. I just know it's not true. And I've looked at all the arguments to support my view, but I've never actually looked at the other side. He's kind of saying the only reason you're a Christian is because you grew up in a Christian nation. If you grew up in a Muslim nation, you'd be a Muslim. Kind of the idea of like, you've never really actually entered into the other religion. And I think John Lennox has probably done a pretty good in-depth study of a lot of different things. I don't know if he's fully studied Islam or whatever, name some other religion, but he was kind of playing that same point against him in that sense. You kind of know what I'm saying there. So how would you respond to that? It's like, well, you're only a Christian because you grew up in America and your family were Christians.
And I would say you're only an atheist because you grew up in, I mean, literally nobody was an atheist before like 1800. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're only an atheist for the exact same reasons that you're accusing me that I'm a Christian.
You were saying
you grew up in a secular, scientifically minded, post-industrial revolution, scientific method environment and civilization. You literally would not be an atheist had you not been born at this time.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't, and that, I think it's maybe genetic fallacy, like, because maybe that's not it.
It's a fallacy of some sort.
It's a fallacy of some sort, but it's like, just because that may be the case doesn't mean that what I believe in is false.
Yeah.
It doesn't negate what it is that I put my faith in.
Yeah.
It has no bearing whatsoever on the truth claim that I have placed my faith in. And again, if you can make an argument to somebody and you can turn it around and make the same argument to them and it holds the same weight, it's like, that's just not an argument that's worth even being made. It's like, the only reason you're an atheist is because you grew up in a society, this present age, where scientific method is worshipped almost as a religion. The way of knowing is the scientific method. And it's like, that claim right there is a religious belief.
And I would just be like, how many Muslims have there been that were born into that and are now Christians? And I would answer, I'm certainly not a Christian just because I was raised in a Christian household. Did it have an influence? Of course, but I'm a Christian because I've been transformed by the Holy Spirit.
Amen. And as I was asking this, I guess that is a little bit different than what but it kind of dovetailed off of what Jonathan was saying, because it's not really the idea that you're not researching the other thing. It's more the idea that you're just born into that. So not exactly one for one, but yeah, this kind of leads into the next question is, and Fen kind of touched on all of these things because he's just so giddy, just knows what I was going to ask. I think most people we interact with, there are like staunch atheists, and I think we should have good responses. But I think a lot of people, at least our generation, is kind of like, I'm agnostic. There may be a God, there may not be a God. Like, I'm open to it, but I'm not like, it's like, I'm kind of like indifferent. Like, there's not enough information for me to make a determination. I don't think there will ever have enough information to make a determination. So why not just try to live the best kind of life you can live now? And if there's a God, we'll see after we die. Kind of that more agnostic. So somebody uses that as I guess these are less questions and more statements that should merit a response from a believer. So maybe that's a better way of how I should have started all this. But yeah, how would you respond to somebody like that? Because it would probably be slightly different than an atheist perspective, but maybe not. Maybe it's the same.
Can you repeat it?
Well, let me state it like this, because I feel like we could use the same things that we use for an atheist, because I think that there's a lot of overlap. But let me restate it like this: I'm agnostic. I think it's impossible to know for sure if there is a God, and if there even is a God, what religion, if any, is actually the true religion to follow.
Yeah, I think my response is similar in that the first question that comes to mind is that something that you would want to know the truth on? And, does that seem like a big enough issue or something that is important enough to actually dive into and find out? To me, as a believer, it seems like the most important thing is, hey, how did I get here? What am I doing here? Why am I so much different than all the other animals on this planet? Why is the planet I'm on the only one that we generally know of that has light? Like, these are huge questions, and maybe not everybody wants to know that answer, but for me, it was like, I have to know this, or it was worth looking into, because if it's all for no reason, I want to research something deep enough to where I feel confident in that, to where I can just live my life however I want, hopefully have a good life, be successful as the world says, and have no qualms with that, and just have no issue with that. But if I am here for a specific reason, if all of these things are lined up for a reason, then what does that mean? And go from there.
Yeah, dude, you're honed in today, man.
Dude,
I like it. I like both of your.
I've had a lot of coffee.
I like all of your guys' responses, but Simon's just
mostly the birthday
Jonathan.
boys.
Dude, he's just
me and Simon are buddies.
Little fuego over there.
With age comes wisdom.
Yeah.
I guess that's why Finn's so wise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't have any grays.
I am the oldest, aren't I? Okay, so the agnostic. I think I'm kind of envisioning two ways to kind of approach that person, and then I think it would be case specific. But like, there is the apologetic pathway where like there are great arguments and apologetics through historical apologetics and philosophical apologetics and everywhere in between, arguments for God's existence and why the Christian God is and who Christ is. And I find those all convincing. Obviously, I'm a Christian. I believe that those are good arguments, that they're true. And some people might be more that way, where it's like, I want good arguments. Tell me why Christianity is true. Give me the arguments. I want to assess those and evaluate them. And maybe that's the personality and the type of person and where they're at in their path that would be convincing to them and would feel satisfying as they're wrestling with those things. Because I think there are genuinely good, true answers. Because Christianity is true, of course there would be good answers. And a more satisfying, deeper answer to the questions that all worldviews need to wrestle with and deal with. It's not just like, hey, we're going to put Christianity on the stand. It's like, no, all these are getting evaluated, should be getting evaluated simultaneously. And which one has the greatest correspondence with reality, the most deep, satisfying answers to those questions. And again, from that perspective, I think Christianity runs away with it. It's because it is true. But I'm also a Christian, so that's easy for me to say. The other one I would say, and maybe this is one that is to put on, and maybe this sounds heretical. I don't know. I don't see how you guys take it. I think we try to convince people with arguments to agree and assent to a propositional truth statement. Believe that Jesus, like just agree with that. I think another mode, maybe another way to do it, because Christianity is true. It's like, look, if you, and then the question is, how far can you put on Christianity and see how it fits? Do you see what I'm saying? And by that, I mean, because it's true, it corresponds with the nature of reality the best. And if you enter into that mode of being, you will see fruits from that and deep meaning and purpose in your life, because you are operating in the way that you were created for. You are starting to live out your purpose. So, like, for example, it's like, all right, I've got kind of a list here, like love God above all. All right, just practically try to orient your life towards the transcendent, ineffable creator God. You might, you know what I'm saying? You might not even believe that he exists, but say, look, I want to orient myself to the greatest good, goodness itself. I want to be in relationship with that, and that's going to be my North Star. That's the directionality for my life. I want to love other people. I want to humbly seek reconciliation and forgiveness and kindness and relationship with other people because I see value in them. Just put that on. Try that. What's another one? Obedience, holiness. I'm going to try to live an upstanding, honest, truthful life in the way I conduct myself, in what I eat, how I physical activity, my relationships at work. Just start living in that way. Don't consume junk all day, every day. Don't lie to people. Don't distort your relationships. Don't bear false witness. Don't, you know what I'm saying? It's like you can start to feel like you start walking in these ways, faith and trust in God. Like, look, I don't know all the answers to everything, but I have a deeper hope and a trust in the creator of the universe, the thing that's orienting me. It's like you start living that out. It's like, I don't know what doesn't sound attractive about that. It's like that starts to immediately bring deep meaning and purpose to your life. Now, the question is, how far can you go down that path without, in a sense, you can't go down that path at all without taking that step of faith. But in another sense, I think you can start practically saying, like, just the principles, just the practices.
I was going to say, I think it's more putting the principles into practice that Scripture lay out will naturally bear fruit. But
and the question is, to what extent can you do that if you're not a believer?
Exactly. Like there's me practically doing these things apart from being indwelt with the Holy Spirit is a completely different thing from someone who is actually indwelt by the Holy Spirit. And I think that's where the rubber meets the road.
But does that track at all? Why that? Man, my microphone is blowing up over here. I don't know if I'm yelling too loud or what.
You shouldn't yell at all.
Just trying to bring some vigor.
I think what I come back to a lot is like just the reality that
Finn's playing ball over here.
The reason I have faith that Jesus is who he says he is, and I have no problem admitting that I diagnosed myself as a Christian for years before I genuinely believed that Jesus is exactly who he said he is. And I say that saying I would say the right things to be like, oh yeah, you know, I believed in God 100%, because to me, backtracing down that whole thing of like, wait, why are we here? Like, this doesn't make sense for us to be here on accident. Like it just didn't make sense to me once I actually started. And that's what led me. I'm like, okay, there must be a God. There has to be a God. So I got there first. And even the Muslims will agree with you. There is a God. I mean, you're talking about billions of people that, and you know, like you said, tracing back through history, like it was obvious. They were worshiping, like it was just, you look around, you're like, okay, well, it's just in you that you know that. But then for a long time, every time I would be like, yeah, Jesus is the Son of God. I'm telling you, and deep in my mind, it was like, at least I'm pretty sure it wasn't just a man. But the difference is me coming to that reality as a fact was because Jesus revealed himself to me. And it was that revealing from him that actually planted that as a cornerstone in my heart and in my mind and in my life. And so that came from him. And so I think there is, like you're saying, I think there's absolute value in, okay, I'm going to get into this and I want to learn this and I want to start. If you're generally open, have an open heart with that, and you're like, okay, well, the Christians do this and they say to pray and they say to do all these things. And they say to study the word. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then through that, with an open heart, like you said, you're trying to draw someone into something that's already true. And so if you can just get them to start down that journey and start down that path and then pray over them, and there's just a level of trust there, a little of faith on our part as the witness, to trust that Jesus will do in their life the same thing he did in mine. And the beauty that we have is that we've gotten to see that so many times in so many people's lives. And it's like, okay, every time you see one more where you're like, oh no, man, you run into someone that you had spoken about a couple years later, and they're like, oh yeah, like, I'm just like, man, that's just my Jesus doing what he does, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so the more you get to see that and the more you witness, I think it just makes it that much easier to be like, to have the faith that I'm going to plant this little seed. So I'm going to water it. I'm going to pray over this person and keep them on my prayer list. And, and then let Jesus do what he does. But
yeah. And an agnostic is somebody who doesn't know that we can know, right? And so there's evidence that Christianity is true. There's evidence. And then, of course, like Romans 1 says, there are, people who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. So,
yeah. So I just watched a church sermon. It's called like Church 37 and I don't know what it's called. It's in Texas, I think, or Florida. And great preacher. He's going through, I'm not sure if it's Acts or anyway. His example was whenever you have the transfiguration and they come off the mount, and there's the guy there whose son is sick, or he's having these fits. He's basically like possessed or whatever. And I think this is the part where the disciples were like, "Oh, we tried to get him out, or what? We tried to pray for him, and it didn't work." Anyway, the guy says something like, Jesus asked, like, "Do you believe?" And he says something like, "I believe. Like, but help me with my unbelief." And it was this duality there where, like, he wanted to believe, but then there's that some part that comes in that just kind of shoots in where it's like, but I don't like, how can I know for sure, And this guy was talking about that's a perfectly sound prayer. Like, God, I believe, but please help me with my unbelief.
mm-hmm.
And I think if we open that door to people who are genuinely starting out on a relationship with God, where it's like, okay, like, look, man, just believe enough to look, and then also be praying and asking God to help you with unbelief that you have. And I think that's a good place to. I think it's okay to tell people that. Like, okay, man, look, there's things that I struggle on, right? Like when you're praying over someone for healing, it's like, yes, I believe, but do I? But do I? But help me with my unbelief, because I see what the science says. Okay, this is a terminal disease or whatever, but I'm still praying, and I want to pray with faith, the kind of faith that the prophets in the Bible had. Um, I think it's a perfectly sound prayer.
Good.
Josiah, are you going to answer any of these questions?
Well, I would say the very first one, I'm kind of similar to the idea. It's like, what do you think how all this came into being? And my idea is, I think Genesis 1 maps on, whether you take it literally or figuratively, it maps onto the idea that there was a beginning to the universe. So that's kind of, and then I think that inner witness where it's like, hey, this is hard for me to articulate, and so it's probably better for me not to or try to articulate my own individual experiences, but I've experienced Christ in such a real powerful way in myself and in my relationship with him, and in my interactions with others, that it's hard for me to explain that, but that bolsters, probably beyond all the intellectual arguments, my faith in him. But yeah, I always touch on John 14:6, and I think the question Jonathan's asking is a good question, where it's like, are you actually open to the idea that there is a God and He revealed Himself in Jesus Christ? Like, if you're open to that, Jesus says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father except through me." So He's making a bold truth statement that objectively He is the truth. And if you're on a path of genuinely trying to seek the truth, I think you'll end up meeting Jesus. Like, I think his claim is accurate and true, and truth isn't just a idea; it is a person. And so, I kind of that um, that's kind of broadly kind of my perspective on it. I think that verse is a very I like that verse. So let me ask you this. And I know we're probably pushing up on time, so maybe I'll start with see if you guys can tackle this
we
one.
got like 10 minutes.
If there is a God and this is the world He created, I don't see that He's a good God or worth being worshipped. And the world He created, in the sense of, look at all the suffering, look at all the poverty, look at all the horrible things that happen to kids, look at all the cancer and disease, and you're telling me that this is the world that God created and He's a good God that is worthy of my worship? No way. I kind of want to put this in there because I kind of tackled something a couple of weeks ago where I felt like I think I mentioned I felt like it was a little bit of a stumbling block. So maybe we could, I know I'm putting you guys up against the clock on this, but the idea of suffering, the idea of like, why doesn't He do more to prevent these horrible things that happen? Like, what's the Christian worldview, and answer that? Because I think what Fenn said is a valid point, where it's like, look, every worldview this is a question that every worldview needs to be able to provide some sort of answer or some sort of response to. So this isn't just a Christian needs to be able to explain this. It's like every worldview.
I'm going to try to just answer from like how I honestly answer this in my own heart and mind, because I do think it's a legit.
Honesty's good, Fenn.
It's but you could answer this from like a apologetic, Christian standard pat answer, but like really, like, once I've taken all that in and considered everything and thought about it, it's like, how do I answer this question in my heart? Like, because there is some extreme evil in the world that's perpetrated against the most innocent. Like, those are the ones that are like the hardest to wrestle with, like children.
Yeah.
Like, demonic, evil, satanic destruction of children for the very purpose of destruction. It's like, God, how in the world is that allowed to happen to the most innocent? And then, to me, it's like, okay, if that exists, the hurricanes, the tsunamis, the cancers, like, those are easier to explain. But if you got to wrestle with the hardest of the hard, like that's existent in the world. It's like, okay, so that's a reality that does in fact exist in the world that we live in. You can't deny that. Again, you either believe there's two categories. God does not exist, and everything that we know and see is literally material. At which point, this is hard because nobody believes that it doesn't matter. Even the most potent atheist, who's the most deterministic mindset and thinking in the world, like, has a emotional gut response that this is evil. And they might try to be careful to not use the word evil,
right?
That it's bad, it's negative towards human flourishing, and that's what I think is good. You can't get away from the terms good, evil, positive, negative. Like, you just can't. And it's like, even them know, like, this is evil. So one, we know in our heart that evil does exist. So if evil exists, there must be good. And you just eliminate those categories altogether, and it's literally a pile of sand. What more value does a pile of sand have? Like, in the long term, that's all it is. Consciousness is an illusion. It's all meaningless. So I'm like, that's not true. So now I have to wrestle with, how does a good, loving, all-knowing, powerful God exist in a world where there's that type of suffering and evil inflicted on innocent? One, again, if you take the Genesis account literally, or if you say it's figurative but true in the sense of what it teaches, I probably more take it literally, personally. But the point is, like, God created a good, ordered world, and He did not create us as robots bound by His decree what decisions we'd make. He genuinely gave us responsibility. We were able to respond. We were neutral, and we chose the wrong path. We chose evil, and God knew that we would. In a sense, He did know that, and that if the freedom was going to be allowed, that evil things can creep into the world. So then you've got that explanation. But to me, at the end of the day, what comes down to me, where I really like, where the rubber meets the road, I'm like, okay, I trust and have faith that all of this is going to be dealt with. God is going to redeem the suffering and the evils perpetrated on those that children least deserving, and so redeem them that the sufferings that are experienced in this world, as evil and extreme as some of those are, that it's going to be washed away in such a way that we cannot even comprehend. And I'm like, it has to be that way. It has to be that way. And that's my hope. That's my trust. And I have full faith and conviction that God will set it right in such a way that there's not going to be a single person who ever has lived or will live that won't be so deeply satisfied in his perfect justice and restoration of all things that it won't be like it says deeply everybody will be as deeply satisfied in what God achieves in the end, that all the suffering and evil. That's what my faith is. That's what I hope. Like that's where I rest. Like I could give you intellectual arguments, whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, I have a deep faith and trust that is going to happen, because I don't think it can ever happen any other way.
No,
for God to be who He is. Now, how do we? And again, compared to eternity, all of this is a blink of an eye. It really is, and it's hard to see that because we're in it now. But man, it's momentary compared to the.
I think if I'm talking to someone who doesn't have like a deep theological background or any at all, I think a good place to start is, there's the reason that there's suffering in the world is because God did give us free will, and God created this beautiful place for us, and it almost validates the Bible. It almost validates everything the Bible teaches, because there is evil or bad in the world, and there's so much suffering in the world that we're doing to each other. We're doing it to ourselves. Like all the all the just destruction, like that's literally what we as human beings are doing here. And we live in this world that is not what God created, or not what God intended, but we have done this to ourselves. And what it comes back to for me with that is, if I'm talking to someone who's struggling with that, it's like all of this is explained in the Bible. There's a biblical explanation for what happened here and why it is the way it is. But the good news is, after you read through that this isn't the only place that exists. And yes, there's suffering here and there are awful things here that we are doing to ourselves, but there is a place outside of this that will be restored back to what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you can either hope in that and trust in that, or you can crawl in a corner, but that is, once again, look into the Bible, see for yourself, and then make your own conclusion.
Sure.
And by the way, so it's talking about the guy helping my unbelief. It's Mark, what is this? Mark 9, 20. They brought the boy to him. When he saw him, immediately the spirit threw him into a convulsion, and falling to the ground, he began rolling around and foaming at the mouth. And he, Jesus, asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood. It has often thrown him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." And Jesus said to him, "If you can, all things are possible to him who believes." Immediately the boy's father cried out and said, "I do believe. Help my unbelief." When Jesus saw that a crowd was rapidly gathering, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, "You deaf and mute spirit, I command you out of him, and do not enter him again." Anyway, that's where that had come from. And I think a lot of people have been there without even realizing it. It's like, I do believe. but help me with my unbelief.
It's good.
I'll talk about story of suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to kind of reiterate, I think you guys touched on it. But God is working on an eternal timeline, and it's very hard for us in our finite minds to see the whole picture as God sees it, and so we're not going to fully understand why God allows certain things to happen. But it's not like God is just has his hands off. No, God in the person of Jesus stepped down into the suffering. And the worst suffering, the worst injustice that happened was Jesus, God himself, being crucified on a cross. There's no other injustice in the world that compares to that. And there's proof of that, there's evidence of that. And Jesus really did rise from the grave. And I mean, it's just, I think there's this idea that, of suffering, that God's absent from it. And it's like, no, he's going to make things right one day. But he stepped down into the suffering himself. And I think, that nothing compares to that injustice that happened.
This wouldn't be my necessary response, and I know we're up on time. It would just be like every time I see like that worst case scenario thing, I always just picture that that's just like the absence of good. And I always just picture whatever eternity looks like, whatever it would like, it's going to be so much exponentially beyond like whatever the worst of the worst is. Like there's the opposite of that times infinity. You know what I'm saying? It's like he created this world knowing that there was going to be pain and suffering and brokenness, but he saw that it was worth it because whatever it is to be in relationship and to see him fully, to be fully known by him, is so much beyond anything we can fully comprehend now that it's going to be like all of that, literally, like Paul said, is just like momentary suffering compared to the glory of knowing him. Like it is going to be beyond anything I can comprehend. And yes, we have to walk by faith in that reality, but ultimately I do think the idea of the cross, the burial, but the resurrection points to the hope of there's something beyond this. Yes, there are so many things broken about this world, but the Christian worldview points that out and gives us the mode to operate in the midst of that brokenness, and we should be the light to the darkness. I think that is an area where we all can continue to grow more in, is expanding that light, and so that darkness has to continually flee in the presence of that light. And so anyway, I try to always just view like, okay, whatever this is, however horrible this, however it makes my stomach want to just turn and throw up and be like, why? There's something opposite of that is even greater. And like, gosh, if he did this knowing that this was going to happen and that it's worth it, I can't wait to see what that's going to be like. And I get little tastes and little glimpses just in my physical finite being now, like of, oh my gosh, God, you are so good. And I don't know what it's going to be like, but it stirs me up when I think about what the opposite of that is times whatever. I had another question, but I know we're up on time, and so we can close it out. And
yeah,
sorry for not having this format a little bit better planned out, but
that was a good response, by the way.
You said not a good response.
No, I said that was a good response.
He said another good response.
I was
by
like,
the
hey
way,
man, all right, well, let's end on that note.
Yeah, you stick to asking the questions.
No, it was good.
Yeah, I was kidding, man. It was good.
Who's gonna pray us out?
Yeah. One more thing. I've said it before on here, but like when it comes to like what you're saying, like there is hope. Like that's what Christians have. That's what one of the gifts that you get is just a hope, even in the darkest times.
Mm-hmm.
God says that He'll be with you in the darkness. God can give you peace in things you never thought you'd be able to find peace in, just through His how great and how good He is. But I feel like when you say that to someone who is trying not to believe, that they would say, "Oh, okay, well, you just want to be a Christian because you want to feel better about things." And there was a preacher that I heard one time said it's wait, hang on a second. I said it's not true because it works. It works because it's true. And I feel like that's where, like you were saying, I'm not sure like what kind of fallacy you're talking about. The fallacy you're talking about. I feel like there's so many things with Christianity. People are like, oh, well, you guys just do that because you can't handle real life. Or it's like, there's so many things that are like that where if you were trying not to believe, you can find. But it's
part of me is like what you just said. You're like, you just believe because you just want to have hope. I'm like, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, so
yeah, it's like saying you just want to work out because you want to feel better. It's like, yeah, because it worked,
right,
and because it's true,
right.
Anyways,
yeah, it's true because it works.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry.
Yeah,
both
I like that.
It works because it's true. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. No, it works because it's true that if I do work out, and anyway, but
well, and it's also true because it works. Like, okay, is working out help you?
Yeah. So I guess that's
my mind's exploded.
It works because it's true, and it's true because it works. Because if it didn't work, it wouldn't be true.
Yeah.
So it works. We're both, man. They're both true,
right?
And because it works.
It's a matter of perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like Oswald said. He said the mountain is measured by the valley. So you kind of get what I'm. It's just a matter of perspective. You can be like, look how deep I am in this valley, or so like, look how big that mountain.
If there were no valleys, there'd be no mountains.
Yep. So it's a matter of what you're focused on.
There's a reason why places like North Korea, like people are not allowed to use the internet because they don't know what they're missing, and so they can keep them in this starving, not enough resources. We're all good. This is the best country on earth sort of mentality because they don't know anything different. And anyway.
Gosh, I would love to. Yeah. No, I would not love to.
Yeah, you trying to move, dude?
Yeah, no.
Take the kids.
No,
that'd
just
be great.
like a case study of like if you were able to extract like 100 of those people, like is there and be able to discern like do they sense that there's something not right about where they're at, or is there something where they've been so ingrained with that like even in their deepest that idea of like that Romans 1, there's something in us that just recognize there's something beyond this. You know what I'm saying? That inner witness of God that's working in your life. Like, is there any sense of that because of that just indoctrination from day one that this is the world, that this is the best it ever is? Is there any sense of just being like, yeah, there's always been a sense of something off, but I didn't know where to put my finger on it because I never even knew that there was another option.
And if I vocalize that ever to anyone, I'll disappear.
That's why I just wonder if like how you.
It's just.
But that's happening right now.
How
that's
are
so
they
wild.
even allowed to exist? Why does China prop them up? It's like that's all you need to know about China, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You're going to prop that up? That's insane.
Yeah.
And allow this dictator just, anyways,
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah.
Let's pray.
Yeah.
Father, thank you for this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to do this with each other. And Lord, I hope we've glorified you in some way. And please continue to work in our lives and everyone around us, Lord. Let your light shine through us. And God, we just thank you for your love and for your grace and forgiveness and every good thing. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Till next time.